It's time for a new Pokemon sculpture. I'm out of decent-sized foam boards, so I'll just find some scraps to glue together for the base. I could have just bought a new board, but that costs money and we don't have that around here. I like the weird shape it's already in, so I'll keep it as is and cut out more foam rocks to add around it. Then I'll glue all the rocks to the base. I usually start my pieces with the sculpture first, but for this one, I'll start with the base. This way, I can make sure everything fits nicely where I want it to later, and I definitely won't mess up the Pokemon sizes. I'll then fill in the holes between the rocks with hot glue to make sure there's no place the resin could escape later. To be extra sure, I'll also mix up plaster, Mod Podge, water, and paint, and cover the whole surface. Then to be extra sure, I'll also cover the bottom with wall filler. As well as a few spots that look suspicious. I want the floor of the base to have a sand texture, but I don't have any sand, so I mixed up glue and a snow texture paste to achieve a similar result. Now you might have thought that we are already extra sure the base won't leak, but you'd be wrong. So lastly, I'll cover everything with a thick layer of Mod Podge mixed with black paint. I'll start the painting with a very dark brown, even though it looks like I'm still just painting it black. And then go over everything with a gray paint, while leaving the brown visible in the deeper crevices. Then a light gray dry brush. I thought the rocks are looking a bit boring, so I also dry brushed on a more yellow light tone. Rocks near water usually have some moss living on them, so I'll also cover some parts with a dark green and then a lighter green as well. And then the sand gets a beige color with a light dry brush to bring out the texture. I'm making a water Pokemon themed sculpture, but sleeping on an uncomfortable rock in a weird place is just a Snorlax thing to do, so I'll also make a Snorlax. I'll use some foil to bulk out his plump stomach and cover that with Cosclay. Then add an equally plump head and his little ears. Everything gets smoothed together along with two chubby arms that will be hanging over the rock. I'll draw on the line that separates the two colors on him and also make the separation more visible. This kind of makes it look like he has a skin suit he's wearing on top of his real body, but I think a bit of extra detail looks better in sculpture format. Then I'll draw on his little face and give him a proper mouth for snoring. I also just realized he doesn't have a nose, so he is in fact a certified mouth breather. Lastly, I'll add his little toenails and go over it with isopropyl alcohol to smooth out the surface. After baking, I realized my Snorlax is going to look very small next to everyone else, so I remade him bigger. The smaller one goes into my failure pile. Maybe I'll use it for a different Pokemon piece someday. His meat suit gets painted blue and the rest of his body beige. I'll paint the details in his mouth and we can move on to the next Pokemon. Which is Love Disc, a little fish shaped like an heart. It doesn't have a lot of detail, an eye and cheek blush, and we can already paint it. It's pink with some light pink details, and that's pretty much it. Now for something more exciting, let's make Totodile. And yes, he looks just as cute as he sounds. I'll start by making the base crocodile body, and then adding a tongue and eyeballs. Then two legs that make him look like a cute T-Rex, but with arms that aren't disproportionate to his body. A few teeth and spikes on his back, and he is all done. I'm making him in this weird pose since he later will be laying on a floaty ring. I'll attach it later for easier painting. His body gets painted teal with a yellow accent on his chest. And all his spikes get painted red, probably just the blood of all his enemies. Then the inside of his mouth and tongue get a few layers of pink. He is a hygienic crocodile, so his teeth are also bright white. And his eyes get painted with the same red color as the spikes. You could even say he is seeing red. Next up, we've got everyone's favorite floppy fish, MaGikarp?
MaGikarp.
After shaping the base body, I'll add its puckered lips and a big eyeball. another fin, and I guess some fish whiskers. Everything gets painted orange and the top and bottom fin a lighter yellow. And then some white for the fins and eyeball. I had actually never heard of this Pokemon before making this video, but it's time to make Octillery. It's basically just an octopus with a weird turret-like mouth. He's got that I'm ready to fight look in his eyes, and I'm also going to lift up his front tentacles for maximum fight stance. Then I'll add some bumps on his head and tentacles. He gets painted red, and the bumps, which I guess are also suction cups, get painted yellow. I might make some Pokemon content in the future, so let me know which Pokemon you'd like to see sculpted next. Next I'm going to take a little clay dumpling and give it some tusks. I'll add in some eyes, and you can probably tell I'm making Kingler. To make his legs, I'll cover a piece of wire with clay, and then add a line between the joint to split the leg into segments. I'll make 4 like this, and then another 2 that have his big claws on them. Then I'll attach all of them to his body. His upper body and claws get painted in an orange-brown, and everything else in a light beige color. Kingler is looking a bit deranged, but it's perfect since he will be throwing Krabby off the diorama. Krabby is basically Kingler, only everything is smaller and cuter. I'll first make him look like a weird spider with thin wire legs, and then cover them exactly like Kingler's. He is also painted the same way, only a bit lighter orange. And the deranged look is replaced by a hopeless one. And that wraps up our Pokemon collection. Before we put everything together, I'll also make a few plants to add into the water, which is some basic leaves and little blobs that are supposed to be corals. I'll paint all the leaves green and then go over them again with a more yellow tone. And I'll cover the corals in various colors just to make the seafloor more interesting. I'll attach all the plants with UV resin and also add in the few Pokemon that will be in the water. I was sure I have plastic sheets for this, but turns out I don't, so I'm gonna butcher this poor plastic folder and then hot glue it to the base. To make sure the resin doesn't leak, I'll cover all the seams with Quick Seal. It's my favorite thing to use for sealing resin containers, works perfectly every time. Then I'll mix up my resin and add a drop of blue for that perfect clear blue water. Thankfully, we were extra sure it won't leak, so it didn't, but I poured the resin layer too thick and it got too hot. So it created a lot of bubbles and deformed a bit, and most noticeably changed color to a toxic green. But let's once more say it's an artistic choice and not incompetence, and move on to fixing up the front of the rocks. Then I'll add some last details like mudkip eggs, the Snorlax, and a floaty ring for Totodile. And the water surface gets a layer of gloss Mod Podge for some texture. Not only does this look nice, but also helps hide some of my failure. Lastly, Totodile and the crabs join the party, and that's it. Thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon, and thank you for watching. This is in fact not the big project I was talking about in my previous video, that is still coming very soon. Until then, stay fantastic, and I'll see you next time. Bye!